Welcome to the Copy Closer podcast. My name is Carlos Redlich, and we've got Tiffany Alford. What's up, Tiffany?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
So we're going to be talking about some pretty cool stuff today. One of the things that we've had some conversations about with other copywriters and other marketers is, whether people who are employees at a company writing copy should be giving freelancing advice to freelancers. My personal opinion, I'll ask you. My personal opinion is I think they should give advice on copy, maybe give advice of what they did when they were copywriters and stuff to avoid, and but pre-frame a lot of things by saying, "Hey, I'm an employee," right? Because otherwise, it's like, how are you giving advice on something you don't actually do? At least not anymore, right? I mean, what do you think?
So really when it comes down to it, I fully believe if you are trying to excel at life, you have this goal in mind, it's better to follow someone who's already living that lifestyle almost 100% down to exactly how you want to live your life in the near future. If you're going after someone who has an employee job, whether they're copywriters and you're a copywriter as well, it doesn't really matter. The big difference is they have a different setup completely. They don't have to go after jobs like you do. They don't have to go after certain clients like you do. They don't have to promote as much as you do. So there are different sides to it. There are different setups. You can set up your rates differently when you're a freelancer and things like that. There's a bunch of different things that go along with it. So if you're an employee trying to give a freelancer advice, it's just going to go off the beat because really they're not looking to have your lifestyle. They're looking to have a different type of lifestyle. And as a freelancer, you have to notice that that's what you want. You don't want to become an employee for a big company. You want to be that freelancer. So you got to find a freelancer that's at a level that you want to be at and go and follow them, ask them questions, get advice from them instead.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, a lot of times, and again, there's nothing wrong with being either a gun for hire freelance copywriter or a person who's just writing at like a big publishing company, because most of the times, at least in my experience, just from kind of comparing them, the people who work at an actual company, as long as they've been doing it for a long time and all that stuff, they tend to actually write better copy, because that's literally all they have to do is write good fucking copy, right? But there's also elements where you don't necessarily have to be the best copywriter in the world to produce $1 million results, but there's also some cool elements when you're a freelancer that, you start learning about things like lead generation, how to close, and there's just a bunch of cool things. We were actually talking to Richard Armstrong the other day, and for the folks who don't know him, he's a really great copywriter. He's been in here in the game, quote unquote, for decades. He's a real A-list copywriter. And he's worked at Who's Who's. And, one of the things that he mentioned was, a lot of people should start their own, side business. He called it like a side mail order business. But, mail order in this case could be like the online world, starting your own funnel. What do you think about that? Like, should people be doing that as copywriters?
So as a copywriter, especially if you're freelancing, but really as an employee, you can do this on the side if your business okays it, because you want to make sure that you're not competing with them. You're not doing anything to jeopardize that position that you're already in. So really what it comes down to it, if you're testing your own copywriting, someone is teaching you something, you test it yourself, you can actually go and teach that to someone else. If someone were to teach you something, you don't test it yourself and you got to try to teach that to someone else, that's just half-assing it basically, because you're not actually testing it yourself. You didn't prove that they did it right. You didn't prove that there were mistakes that are commonly made. You didn't prove that you went through the struggle to get that result or whatever. So really, when it comes down to it, when you have your own funnel and you're writing your own copy, you have more credibility, more proof that you can show, and you get better at things much faster because you're testing it yourself. You're not just going off of someone else's word about it.
100%. I mean, that's actually such a good point that you've got some really good credibility now, and that you can show something with your work, because a lot of clients, if you're a freelancer, a lot of times you'll run into a question from a possible client saying, well, hey man, or hey, whoever you are, if you're so good at this, why don't you do it yourself? Right? I mean, most of it is just copy and traffic, and you can almost find a product. You can almost buy a private label rights product and then just create the marketing around it. So the product, you can almost fill that in. The real skills is the marketing, right? Is the copywriting and the lead generation. Whenever you do that for yourself, if you're trying to if you're also freelancing, when a client asks for some samples, you say, oh yeah, great. Well, I've also got a side business where, here's what we do. We sell stuff in the martial art niche, or we sell stuff in the whatever niche, and you show them that link, and now it's like instant credibility, right? I mean, that's the main way to do it.
Makes you an authority figure already, because you're trying things that other people aren't. You're going that extra mile with your copywriting. You're not just giving it to, one person to test. You're actually testing that formula that you use multiple different times with multiple different niches. You're showing that you're kind of a jack of all trades with your copywriting, your specialty. So really, when it comes down to it, you're showing you're an expert. You're an authority at it.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You mentioned the jack of all trades thing. A lot of time, so one thing is you're not necessarily, if your specialty is copywriting, you could be a superpower copywriter who also understands the fundamentals of Facebook ads and Google ads. Like what we do is we build our own funnels and we'll run our own ads for the most part, but we don't claim to be funnel gurus or ad gurus. Whenever we've taken on a project that includes that, we always bring on somebody who's a true expert in their field who is able to do that, right? And so that way, everybody wins and everybody's focusing on their superpower, and you don't have to worry about, am I just spreading myself too thin, right? So, I mean, have you ever seen that? Have you seen other copywriters kind of spreading themselves too thin and trying to do everything?
Yeah, I would definitely say that happens more often than not, because really, as when you're getting to like an entrepreneur, you're trying to be a freelancer with anything, you have this shiny syndrome. It's the shiny object syndrome, as they like to say. You get all these ideas and you're going through all these ideas on a daily basis, and maybe something didn't give you results in that one day that you tried it. So you're on to the next idea. That's not the way to go, when really you want to specialize in something. You want to go ahead and push towards something till you get those results, or you figure out, all right, this is a dead end. Once it's a dead end, then you can figure out, okay, well, I'm not going to do that again with this niche. I'm not going to do that again with this piece of copy. This is the wrong way to approach a client. This is the wrong way to try to get a job. It just teaches you once you know that you're at that dead end. But if you only do a day or two, trying to test it, then you're really not getting that experimenting in it. You're not getting that experience, and you're not getting that knowledge behind really testing things out as much. So when you really come down to it, you want to specialize in either, if you're doing copywriting, it's okay to do sales letters and emails. It's okay to do full funnel copy, but don't go out there and try to do 5 different niches at once. Don't go out there and try to do 20 different businesses at once. When you're a newbie, you need to specialize in one niche, figure out exactly what it takes in copywriting and in sales and in marketing strategy, business, all of that put together to get those results. Then try in another niche, because then you can figure out, all right, well, for example, yoga is something that you would not market the same way as a fitness kickboxing class or something like that, because it's a totally different mindset you're going after. You're going after a totally different customer. So you want to make sure that you specialize in one niche before going into another one and figuring out, well, this maybe not work in this niche, but it works in this one that I've already been in. So maybe I should just go headstrong in that one. That's
such a good point. It actually makes your job a little bit easier as a freelancer when you niche down. Eventually, you can write for tons of different people, and that's fine. But if you're new and you're just getting started, it always, at least in my opinion, in her opinion, obviously in Tiffany's opinion as well, is you want to specialize in at least some kind of niche market, because when you're able to dive deep on a specific topic, like for example, if you're talking in the personal development niche or something like that, you can really dive deep on there in that subject and become one of the best copywriters in that niche market. And so now when everybody wants to write a personal development letter or a funnel, they go to you because you have proven results, because you may have started as a newbie, but this is all you do. You are the king or queen of personal development. And so when you write copy for it, you can just outperform everybody else, because a lot of times copywriters are able to do all the cool words and tactics and all that cool stuff. But if they don't really understand the real research, if they don't really understand why people want this product or need this product, then it's never going to work as well as somebody who's out-researched the other copywriters. So if you're ever being placed in a split test, and let's say both of you are, have relatively equal skill in writing copy, so to speak, right? The person who's probably going to win is a person who's done more work and more research to figure out what's going on with this product, what's, why are people interested in it? And that's the person who's going deep into that subject, who's going to be able to relate to the reader. I mean, is that kind of what you were saying?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Because once you can figure out that targeted audience, like I said, when you're trying to market to different types of audiences, it's two different messages. It's completely two different funnels. It's two different mindsets. You literally have to put yourself in two different sets of shoes. And to sit down and write that back to back is very complicating and overwhelming for your mind. And it's going to show in your performance. Your copy is going to show that you're a little stressed out on trying to mash those two different niches. So when you're a newbie, it's very, very difficult to do that. But once you've specialized in one niche, you know everything about that niche, you've tried everything that has to go in copywriting with that niche, you can take what you have in your head on all of that and try another niche, because that's not too overwhelming. You already know this is going to take me 5 minutes to write because it's a piece of cake. It's so easy. I've done it so many times. It won't even be stressful at all. But I'm going to sit down and put a little more effort into this new niche because I'm trying to learn a bit on it. So it's going to take me a little bit longer, but it won't butt heads because you have that one where it's like really piece of cake. You're not stressing about it at all. You're already specialized in it. And then you have that one other that you're trying to try out. You're trying to test it, experiment a little. So that one's where you won't butt heads a little bit when you're trying to write all that in one day or trying to write it all in 1 month or something like that.
Yeah, and one thing that I think is cool to point out too is when you start writing for different niche markets, don't go so far out in left field. Like if you've been writing stuff in like the personal development niche, don't jump into financial because that's completely different. It requires a completely different amount of work that's in there, right? And so what you want to do is stay close to what you know. So maybe if you were writing really great copy in the personal development niche, also just slide into maybe the spiritual niche. It's very similar, not that much different. Maybe from there you can go into some other stuff like alternative health, which, well, that's really kind of different. But anyways, you kind of sliver into these different niche markets. But you want to make sure that you're using, since you spent all this time working on getting to know this one niche market, there's no reason to have to jump into a completely new one that's in total left field. Just go into a new niche market. So now you can write for more clients, but it's still something you can piggyback off your old knowledge.
Exactly.
Right?
So that's really like what he's saying is like, so you have a niche and then you have a sub niche and then there's categories for those sub niches. And so everything kind of breaks down and there's a lot that goes into one. So when we're talking about health, that's huge. That's so much that goes into it. You could literally go diabetes, or you could go weight loss, or you could go fitness a little into the health too. So it's like kind of like a lot of different things that you could specialize in health, but that's a very broad and general category. So you want to make sure that you're specializing in one before going after the other. You don't want to do diabetes and then all of a sudden do fitness, because that's two totally different ones, but you can make your way to fitness from diabetes because they're both health related, if that makes sense.
100%. So how can people, what do you think are some good ways people can find out like what to do next? Like if they were okay, well, I don't know what kind of niches are out there, or niche, however you want to pronounce it anyways, cool, right? Well, they don't know what niche markets are out there. What would you say is a good suggestion to figure that out?
Really, if it comes down to it, you don't have a product yet that you really just like went all in and you're like, I'm so passionate about this, I want to write about it all day, every day, then go on things like Amazon, or go on things like the Facebook marketplaces, or maybe sometimes even Facebook itself, and just search keywords. But really, I would start with things like Amazon or eBay and stuff like that, where they're already buying. You can also go on anything that's like AliExpress, DHgate. If you look up, even ClickBank too. If you look up these things by order, it'll tell you how many orders are being bought per product, and it'll tell you like if this one's being bought more than this one, if this one's more popular than this one, and things like that. So really, when it comes down to it, if you do this, you go on there and you search for the most popular things, you can choose 5 or 6 products or services, depending on which one you want to write for, and just go ahead and write for those, like like choose one product. For example, on ClickBank, you want to do a weight loss product. It's a supplement. All right, cool. So go ahead and choose that supplement, write an email sequence for it, maybe an opt-in page, or maybe even, half of a sales letter. Don't finish the whole thing. You don't have to do the whole thing. Just write half the sales letter. Say this was the first step of the project. You can go ahead and use these things as your samples later on. So this is really a great way to get started in trying to figure out what you want to write for as well, because it's kind of hard to figure out, you may be passionate about something, but writing about it, it's totally different. So you want to make sure that it's something you can write about, you're comfortable writing about it. I do know that there are things that I'm not comfortable writing about because it gets really like technical side of it, and I'm just not techie genius. So writing about it is kind of hard. So there are just some things that you just have to understand that you're not great at it. So this is a great way to go ahead and start. Pick 5 or 6 products, write an email sequence for them, a Facebook ad sequence. You can write an article sequence, whichever one you kind of want to specialize in with copywriting. If you want to be a sales letter writer, go ahead and write a sales letter for each product. That gives you a sample that you can use with each prospect. Not only that, but it gives you a writing style to start with. It tells you how you're going to write in the future, and it tells your prospects your kind of writing style as well.
That's awesome. That's gold advice right there, guys. And so anybody who's listening, make sure you go check those sites out. Check out ClickBank, write some copy for it, and see what makes you excited. What do you feel like, man, I wish I could get paid for this? Because you could also just hit those people up now cold and say, hey, here's some copy. Here's some sample stuff I wrote up for you. It's just an email. If you're interested and you like this type of stuff, let's hop on a phone call and see if maybe I can handle the rest of your campaign. And then you get paid for the rest, right? So exactly. That's awesome advice. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the Copy Closer podcast. Make sure that you subscribe, you rate us 5 stars, and if you could, please leave us a killer written review. That's really what helps us rank up on iTunes. So thanks so much, Tiffany.
See you later, guys.
Take care, guys. See you in the next episode.